Hi, this is Ms. Wright, and I am going to review how to write your literary essay. Octavia Butler, a famous science fiction writer, once said, "You don't start out writing good stuff, you start out writing crap and thinking it's good stuff, and then gradually you get better at it." That's why I say one of the most valuable traits is persistence. So a writer should not expect that he or she is going to have something fabulous on the first draft. It may take many drafts to perfect your paper. So you need to have that persistence that you are going to keep trying until you get that paper right. So let's look at the introduction. Let's look at the structure beginning with the introductory paragraph. Okay? And I've broken down that introductory paragraph to some essential components. So your introduction is composed of first an attention grabber. Some teachers call it a hook. And I would like you to have this hook so that you really have an interesting way into what you're going to be talking about. And in the next slide, I will give you some very specific kinds of hooks that I want us to work with throughout the school year. So after you have your hook, you want to transition from your hook into the body of the paragraph. Then you want to introduce the author and the title. Since it's a literary essay, we're responding to either a story, a play, a poem, and we need to make sure that we cite the author and the title and that we identify that title correctly. Novels and major works are underlined, and minor works such as a poem or a piece of short fiction would be in quotation marks. Then we want to describe the story or the main character in 2 to 3 sentences just to give a reader of your essay some background so that they're not lost. We don't want to assume that this person is familiar with your paper. Any reader should be able to pick up your paper and get some knowledge out of it. And as a courtesy, you want to give that person a little background on this story, maybe a little summary, a little taste of what the story was about. Then you want to state your thesis. What we're working with in my class is called a 3-pronged main idea, so that you state your thesis and you make sure within the thesis that you state the 3 things that you are going to emphasize as you go through your paper. All right? And this should be in one powerful sentence, not in 3 sentences. 1 sentence. Okay, here's types of attention grabbers for those people who aren't familiar. So you have an anecdote, which is when you tell a little story, just a little vignette to pull your reader in, and it's obviously something that would relate to the book. Definition. If you're dealing with technical terms in your paper, you might want to define one or define a term related to the ideas that you're going to talk about in the paper. You might describe the setting, one of the locations of where something important in the story takes place, especially if it's going to relate back to what you're going to talk about later in the essay, because it's really great to have a thread that runs through the essay from the beginning to the middle to the end that helps to tie the whole essay together and make it feel cohesive. Imagery, use words that relate to sight, sound, smell, taste, touch. That's what we're doing for the particular paper that we're working on now. Each time we do a paper, we want to try something different and not just rely on the same techniques we've learned in middle school or elementary school. You can also start with a metaphor. You can start with a simile. You can start with a rhetorical question. That's the one that people feel most comfortable with. but we want to grow beyond that, and we want to try some different techniques. And when in doubt, take a quotation from the book, from the story, or from the poem that you are analyzing and use that. What is the most compelling line? What is a line that relates to something you're going to talk about later? And open with that if you can't think of anything else to do, because it was good enough for the writer, so it's probably be good enough for you. Okay? Body paragraph. From paragraph 1 to infinity. And the reason I said that is because oftentimes people end up thinking a paragraph has to be 5 paragraphs, or an essay, rather, has to be 5 paragraphs. And that is not true. An essay needs to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. So typically you would think, okay, it needs to be 3 paragraphs. But really that body is like an accordion. It can expand or it can contract depending upon what your needs are. So if you're writing an essay that goes on for 49 paragraphs, you still are going to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And the body is going to be 47 out of the 49 paragraphs. So as long as your essay needs to be, you still need to have a well-defined introduction, a clear body, and a well-defined conclusion. Okay? For our purposes in our class, we are writing a 5-paragraph essay, but I just want you to know that is not the only length of an essay. An essay will contract or expand depending on what your needs are as a writer. Now, in my class, we are using the topic sentence as the opening sentence. When you get up into the upper grades, the teacher will tell you it doesn't have to be the first sentence, and that is true. But as we are still learning how to be successful writers, we need to follow the basic procedures, and then once we get to be experts, we can do some innovation of our own. After you have your topic sentence, you are going to have 2 to 3 supporting details from the story, very specific instances from the story that relate to the topic and support your topic. You're going to have 1 or more quotations that relate to the topic and relate to those details that you gave. Be sure to explain how each quote relates to the topic. Include citation information such as the page number after the quote. Use transitions to intro new ideas or introduce new ideas. Use the vocabulary words we've studied. We've already studied a couple hundred words, and you don't want to throw them all in the paper, but to have 5 or 6 words that are germane to our topic is a good idea. We won't learn our words if we don't use our words. And then you want to transition out of that paragraph into the next paragraph. So you want to have a sentence that is almost a bridge from one paragraph to the next. Here are some transitions, or some people call them connectives. And these words help to link ideas within the various paragraphs. So these are just a few of them. There are so many. But for example, to illustrate, for instance, in fact, in effect, that is, of course, indeed, and actually are phrases that you can use to help move from one idea to the next. You can also use things as simple and basic as first, second, third, okay, to go from one idea to the next. But those little cue words like first, second, third help your reader to follow your ideas. It seems so simple, but it's actually very important to help the reader not get lost in what you're saying and follow your order. For the conclusion, I put these, and one of my students, Erica, donated another one. In other words, in brief, in sum, on the whole, to sum up, in conclusion, in short, in the final analysis. That's from Erica. And when you are writing your conclusion, you want to have some cue words in there also to remind our reader that we are drawing to a close. Okay? One more thing. It is important that as you are writing your essay and you are giving your ideas, that you remember to show insight, which is the ability to see clearly and intuitively into the nature of a complex person, situation, or subject. I need you to be perceptive, which is possessing or showing keen insight and understanding. Think of it this way. Answer the question in your mind. Why is this information important to the reader? Why should the reader even care about what I'm saying? And as you're answering that, make sure that there's a sentence in each of the body paragraphs before you leave that paragraph that really helps to define the importance of what you're saying in the small scale, but also in a larger context. The conclusion, you want to make sure you restate your main idea, summarize the 3 main points from the body. That's the basic thing that you have to do, but we need to also go beyond that. So in the conclusion, I want you to choose one of these. You don't have to do all of these. You can let the reader know that there were other important elements to your paper, but you chose the 3 most important aspects to discuss. And you can give them a little taste of some of the other things that you weren't able to get to. You can also say, think, what is it about this essay that is really important? And that's what I was trying to say before. What is it about? You want to, before you close that essay, you want to make sure that you have let that reader know and you reiterate what is really important. What should a reader of this essay learn about human nature? Think of the book as a whole. What is the larger significance of your thesis? How does your thesis relate to a specific genre, literature in general, the life of the author, or the life of the reader? So when you talk about the life of the reader, how can you make this really relevant to your audience? End strong. Bring your essay to a thoughtful end. End with a different attention grabber for a high impact closing. So you don't want to just walk away from the essay. You want to make it feel as though you have put all the elements together and you have now brought them to a thoughtful close, a deliberate close, and then tie it in a bow by giving a nice metaphor or simile, something that makes it feel like you have put that cherry on top of the ice cream for your reader. All right. Thanks for watching. Remember to leave a like and subscribe. I will see you back in the classroom, and shout out to my awesome students. Truly amazing students. I have them, so blessed. And I will see you soon. Okay? Bye-bye.